Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're kicking off a really interesting exploration into the Coffin Cheaters Motorcycle Club.
Yeah, we've gathered quite a bit of information here. The aim is really to understand their story, origins, key moments, connections.
Basically, map out who they are using what's publicly available.
Exactly. And let's face it, that name, Coffin Cheaters.
Right. It definitely grabs you. Makes you think, doesn't it? Suggests a certain attitude.
For sure. So let's try and unpack that. Who are these guys? What's their journey been like?
Okay, so where does it start? Origins.
Looks like Perth, Western Australia, back in 1970. That's when the Coffin Cheaters MC was founded.
And they get tagged as an outlaw motorcycle club pretty much straight away.
Yeah, that label comes up. It generally means they operate outside the mainstream motorcycle associations, often with their own rules, their own structures.
It sets them apart. And they have a website too, right?
Yeah.
www.coffincheatersmc.org.
They do, which is, interesting for a group sometimes seen as insular. It's a direct signal, I guess.
Okay, so they start in Perth. What about growth? Expansion.
Well, there's an interesting development in 1999. They merged with another club down in Victoria.
Oh, right. Another Aussie club.
Yeah, and get this, the Victorian club was also called the Coffin Cheaters, apparently unrelated until the merger.
Wow, okay. That's quite a coincidence. Or maybe not. You have to wonder.
Makes you think if the name itself had some pull, some shared idea, maybe.
Could be. But the expansion didn't stop in Australia, did it?
No, and this is a really key point. In the mid-2000s, 2004 and 2005, they moved internationally
How did that work?
through something called patching over. Basically, they absorbed two existing Norwegian gangs,
Which ones?
the Forbidden Few MC in 2004 and then the Wizard MC in 2005.
So patching over means those Norwegian members essentially became coffin cheaters. New patches, everything.
Pretty much, yeah. They adopt the identity, the hierarchy, all of it.
Yeah.
And this was significant because, well, they were apparently the first Australian gang to do this, to set up international chapters.
From Perth to Norway. That's a big jump. Shows some serious ambition, or maybe opportunity.
Definitely speaks volumes. But, speaking of the name, it turns out the Australian club wasn't the only one using Coffin Cheaters.
Ah, right. There was a U.S. version.
There is a U.S. club, yeah.
Ah.
Coffin Cheaters MC, founded much earlier, actually, early 1960s, down in Southern California.
Okay, so are they connected? Branches of the same tree?
Nope. And the sources are really clear on this. Absolutely no connection between the Australian group and the U.S. one. Two totally separate entities.
That's crucial then. Same name, different clubs entirely. Is the U.S. one different in how it operates?
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Our info suggests the U.S. Coffin Cheaters have some unique traits, like they apparently don't have prospects.
No probationary members. That's unusual for an MC, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Mhm.
Most clubs have that phase where you have to earn your full patch.
Right.
And also recruitment in the U.S. club is said to be primarily through blood relatives.
Really? So very family-based, almost like a dynasty kind of thing.
More insular, perhaps. It suggests a different kind of structure, a different focus, maybe.
And there was mention of a feeder club, City Crew MC.
Yeah, likely linked to the U.S. group. Maybe a way for potential family connections or close associates to get involved before, or maybe instead of joining the main club.
Okay, interesting contrast. So let's swing back to Australia. The 1980s in WA. Sounds like a busy time for the biker scene.
Definitely. The information points to four main outlaw clubs really dominating the landscape in Western Australia then.
The Coffin Cheaters, obviously. Who else?
Club Deros, the Gypsy Jokers, and God's Garbage. Those are the big four.
And an interesting detail, only one of them didn't actually start in WA.
That's right. The Gypsy Jokers, they originated elsewhere. But the other three, Coffin Cheaters, Club Deros, God's Garbage, they were all homegrown WA clubs.
So a strong local scene, which probably sets the stage for what happened in 1989, the mongrel mob conflict.
Exactly. This seems like a really pivotal event. You've got the mongrel mob, who are originally from New Zealand, trying to set up shop in Perth.
And the local clubs weren't rolling out the welcome mat, I take it.
No. Quite the opposite. Those four established WA gangs, Cheaters, Deros, Jokers, God's Garbage, they actually teamed up, formed an alliance specifically to stop the mongrel mob.
Wow. So rivals, potentially, but united against an outsider.
That's the dynamic it suggests, a kind of us against them mentality when faced with an external group trying to move in on their turf. It raises questions about the pecking order and territorial control.
So what actually went down? It sounds like it got messy fast. The sources mentioned 5 days of escalating trouble.
It did. It started with a pretty major incident. The mongrel mob's metalwork shop was bombed. 2 kilograms of gelignite.
Whoa. Okay, that's serious. Any injuries?
Yeah, one of the key mongrel mob figures there, Selwyn Werepapa, was hurt in that blast. It was a clear, violent message.
I can imagine. Did the mob hit back?
They tried. There was an attempted bombing at a tattoo parlor linked to the Gypsy Jokers. So tit-for-tat violence involving different clubs.
It's spreading. Were the police involved by this point?
Oh, yeah. They raided 3 properties, made 7 arrests, including Werepapa again, found guns, bats, drugs. The usual stuff in these situations.
So arrests made. Did that cool things down?
Not entirely. Just 2 days after those raids, Werepapa was shot.
Shot? Seriously? Where?
In the groin, apparently.
Yeah.
Happened in Swanview, a Perth suburb.
Okay, and did they know who did it?
Well, arrests followed that too. A Gypsy Joker member, Paul Hugo, and a God's Garbage member, Ronald Scott, were charged with assault, occasioning actual bodily harm. So direct involvement from the allied WA clubs is clear.
It sounds like a proper street war, basically. What was the end result? Did the mongrel mob manage to stay?
No. The pressure was too much, the violence, the police attention, and that unified front from the local clubs. It essentially forced the mongrel mob out of Perth. They had to abandon their push into WA.
So the alliance worked, albeit violently. Now, the term four-club policy comes up in relation to this. What's that likely referring to?
It strongly suggests there was some kind of pre-existing understanding or maybe an informal agreement between those 4 main WA clubs.
Like rules of engagement
Right.
or territory.
Probably covering things like territory, yeah, and maybe how they deal with issues between themselves. But crucially, how they'd react together if an outside group like the mongrel mob tried to muscle in. It gives context to why they united so quickly.
Right. It frames that alliance. It paints a picture of a structured environment, even if it's outside the law. And it seems the authorities kept responding over the years.
Looks like it. There's a mention of the criminal law, Criminal Organizations Disruption Amendment Act 2013. That kind of legislation doesn't just appear out of nowhere.
Suggests that events like the '89 conflict and the continued presence of these clubs spurred specific legal responses in WA aimed at cracking down on them.
Exactly. Trying to give law enforcement more tools to disrupt these groups.
So quite a journey we've traced then. From a local Perth club in 1970.
To becoming the first Aussie MC to go international by patching over clubs in Norway.
And playing a key role in a major violent conflict to defend their turf against an outside gang. It's a complex picture.
Definitely. Key takeaways are really that Perth origin, the unusual international expansion, and that significant 1989 clash with the mongrel mob alongside the other WA clubs.
And super important to remember that distinction. The Australian Coffin Cheaters are not the same as the U.S. Coffin Cheaters.
Absolutely critical point. 2 separate clubs, same name, very different histories, and it seems different ways of operating, especially with the U.S. clubs' focus on family ties and no prospects.
Yeah, quite the contrast. So wrapping this up, it really gets you thinking about the dynamics at play here, doesn't it? You've got local rivalries for sure, but then this ability to form alliances, often temporary, against what they see as an outside threat.
It makes you wonder what really drives these groups. Is it territory, ideology, brotherhood, something else?
Exactly. What are the forces shaping these formations, these alliances, these conflicts within that whole outlaw motorcycle subculture? Definitely leaves you with something to mull over. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
My pleasure.